That doesn't sound like a bad idea, that's for sure. Hi there. Welcome, everybody, to Cast Iron Wednesday. This, of course, is a long-run tradition that a number of YouTube cooking channels have been doing for the past several years or so. We do a video about cast iron on Wednesday because, gee, I don't know, why we want to do a video about cast iron? Although actually the main reason we do this is to have fun, playing with our cast iron and cooking and collecting and restoring and talking about cast iron because, yeah, this is a hobby that a lot of people seem to share, and I'm very glad to be part of it, especially since, I've been doing this now for the past 4 years here. Almost every Wednesday, I've been doing a live video here, and I thank you very much for joining my channel so that we can, have another Wednesday with cast iron. I mean, I know I did have to cancel my live video last week, but that's only because things turned out to be very, very busy, including my trip to Brimfield last Friday, and I was quite happy about that. I may not have found a life-changing piece of cast iron last week, like I have done a couple of times in my trips to Brimfield, but it was a lot of fun, and I certainly am looking forward to doing this again and hopefully bringing some friends with me. But that was last week, and tonight, of course, I mean, as the subject says here, we are looking at two different subjects. Although I do intend, number one, not to spend the entire time talking about that second subject, and number two, I do not want to talk about politics. No, I'm kind of tired of that right now, as I think a lot of people are. So, having said that, I can only thank everybody here for being kind enough to show up, like Rocket Caver. The best artisan bread is just flour, water, salt, and yeast, which is exactly what I'm trying to do tonight. And Fuzz Fork 8, and Val's Black Cats Rule, and hello, Chris McGee, and Cast Iron Fanatic, and Greg Hart, and Pat Z, and Rich Qualls. And I hope you can hear me as well, because this is either my second or my third week, I'm not sure which, using a stand mic rather than that clip-on mic. Because, again, my clip-on mic broke, or at least the clip on it broke. And so I used a stand mic instead as a replacement, and folks said that the sound seemed fine. So, well, we will continue that way. And hello to RT Scott and Clico, and hello, Kimberly Miller. All is doing well. I'm glad to hear that. So, yes, thank you again to everybody who's been kind enough to show up this evening, where we are indeed. I am making my first attempt at sourdough. Yes, that wonderful subject in baking that I understand is kind of like an addiction in itself. I mean, just like I've got a serious case of cast ironitis, if I'm not careful, I could end up catching the baking disease. And I think I caught that a couple of weeks ago when I made a loaf of bread, actually a couple of loaves of bread, and that turned out, well, pretty darn good, if I may say so. And because of that, I finally broke down and I cheated. I ordered myself some sourdough starter online because, I'd heard about how starting up a sourdough starter can be rather difficult. And while indeed there's no reason, there shouldn't be any reason why I wouldn't have wanted to take that chance and actually start growing some wild sourdough starter. I mean, as I said, I admit I took the easy way out and ordered some starter online. It arrived last weekend, and starting this past Sunday, I have been feeding it regularly. But then it was yesterday morning that I finally, after I think its third feeding, I just put the rest of it in the fridge so that I won't have to feed it again until this coming Saturday. When I figure I can make a habit of that because I already have my phone alarm set every Saturday morning to shake my homemade vanilla. And so I figured that would be a good time to feed my starter as well. Yeah, I heard a couple of comments about the starter here and saying that you shouldn't actually do it in a, you shouldn't actually store it with a tight sealed jar because it builds up gas. Well, earlier this afternoon, I actually did untwist this. And of course, it's not doing it now because because I had already done that, but it definitely gave a real pop as the gas was released. So I figure actually, I mean, if I do that on a regular basis, that should work out just fine. I think the starter is actually not looking too badly. As I said, it's just doing a cold rise or cold fermentation. My plan is I'm thinking I can feed it on Saturday morning, leave it out on Saturday so that by Saturday evening I can put the starter back in the fridge and use the discard and, well, do more baking. So there's a plan, I hope. Yeah, Huggy Bear, I've never made sourdough. Yes, this is going to be my first attempt making sourdough as well. Bread is its own meal, Buzzfork Aiden. Radagast, not a big deal, but the sound goes down a bit when you lean over to read the comments. Well, yes, that's because I have this over here. Maybe I should perhaps move the microphone over to where the laptop is, and that way I think the sound will actually go up when I'm leaning over to read the comments. So maybe that might help. As long as you can hear me okay right about here, where I'm actually able to look at the camera, then that might very well be the best place for it. But thank you for the advice there. Yeah, we called my great grandmother Granny Graham. And yes, hello to Ronald Howard as well. And hello to JIR Finishes and Wyoming Yeti and everyone. Yes. Yeah. And I know that's the other thing about sourdough starter. People consider these things to be pets and they give them names and all kinds of cute things like that. I have not decided on a name for this starter yet. I think it'll come to me at some time or another because, I mean, really, it's like, as you know, I have given names to a few of the pieces in my cast iron collection, but not every single one. I've got Stumpy, I've got Lightning. Those two in particular are two of my favorite named pans, but most of these I'm just fine to just simply call them as is. Right now, this is my starter. And I will get this back in the fridge in just a few minutes because I have a cast iron Dutch oven heating up in the oven right now. I mean, after all, we need that to actually bake this loaf. However, as for the loaf itself, over 50, but not much anymore. Oh, yeah. Okay, as for the loaf itself, Rocket Caver, I picked up a made in South Africa #2 Poiki. Nice. A #4 and a #2. Well, that sounds good. I don't know if the size number. I don't understand how South African size numbers go because my #3 Poiki is about 8 liters in size, but that would mean your #4 is pretty darn big. So I'm glad to hear that. Anyway, as I said, for whatever it's worth, here is my loaf that I have been attempting to rise. I started this actually. My initial plan had been to do this yesterday evening. In fact, I actually started my leaven, which is where I took my sourdough discard and fed that and let that rise yesterday morning until yesterday evening. But then things came up and I had company, which ended up staying overnight. So, because of that, I made the decision, and I hope this was not the wrong decision, to actually put this in the fridge and do a slow rise overnight. It started at maybe about 5 p.m. yesterday evening, and I took it out at about 5 p.m. this evening, about 3 hours ago. And since then, I have covered it with a towel and I've been keeping it in the oven with the light turned on. So I do think this thing has risen. So at this point, all we need to do is give it a try. Supposedly, if you poke this thing, there we go, and it does not look like there's too much of a if you overproof it, it does not look like it's been overproofed. So I'd say all we can do now is give it a try. Hope it's room temperature. Well, again, I've had this in the oven for the last 3 hours. So going on 3.5 hours, in fact. So I can only hope so. As I said, in the oven with the light on, not actually baking. So what can we do but give it a try? Yeah, slow rise gives it more flavor. Well, let's hope so, Granny Graham. All right, that means let's get started on this because this doesn't take long to bake, but it does take some time. So that means I've got a pan here that I'll be showing in a little bit. Okay, but right now here on yeah. Over here, I've got a little tray and I've got a trivet. It's a new trivet, well, sort of a new trivet. That, yeah, I found this one at the flea market a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it or not, but right now let's give it a little bit of use, shall we? And it's time to put on the gloves and bring out my Dutch oven. This is going to be my Lodge Dutch oven, which is a modern day Lodge Dutch oven that has that very antique rope lid, the one that I was lucky enough to get earlier this year. So we'll have a chance to use that. Let's go and quickly get this out of the oven. Here it is. Oh, ow, ow, ow. This pot has been heating at 475 degrees and it's certainly reached it, that's for sure. Wow. Okay, I'll show the lid to you after I take the lid off. But right now, let's just do what we do. And woof, holy cow. Well, this thing is definitely hot enough, isn't it? All right. Okay, that means let's get this, uncover it right now. And we're supposed to put the whole thing, paper and all, into the pot. So let's do this very quickly and carefully. In we go. All right. Now, glove. This thing is hot. I do not want to burn myself. Let's cover this. Get it back into the oven. Be right back. All right. There we go. Move this dish out of the way. Oh, yeah. And we're supposed to keep this in the oven for 15 minutes, after which point I will then remove the cover and bake it uncovered for, CIC has the sourdough going. Yes, indeed. I just put it into a hot Lodge cast iron Dutch oven. I have no idea how it's going to turn out because this is my first sourdough loaf. And like you said, I did a cold rise overnight. I can only hope, as you say, that it did actually reach room temperature over the last 3 hours. And we will see from there. It'll be fine. Well, I certainly hope so, Ronald Coward. Thank you so much. So in about another 14 minutes, it's 8:14 now, so we're talking like 8:28. I will take the cover off, and then I'll be able to show the cover off to you folks again. Lord, buffering already. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Cynthia Wesley. Yeah, I know. I am, quite frankly, in envy of your bread, Louis J. I've seen quite a few of your loaves that you've cooked. I have a long, long way to go before I reach your level, but over time, well, I hope to gain some proficiency at it. Home will be smelling real good. Well, I certainly hope so. You saw that puff of smoke that this thing made just a minute ago. All right, and yes, hello, Flash 1499 as well. So, but yeah, as I mentioned now, oh yeah, the sourdough starter. That's right. That's the other thing. I better put this thing back in the fridge right now. Getting the butter ready. Yeah, that's not a bad plan. Be right back. Just putting this back in the fridge. Actually, I'm already regretting that. I could have kept that starter out for the entire time of this live, and I don't think it would have hurt it. Anyway, did he score it? I did not score it, actually, because I'm uncertain of how well this thing rose. But, well, again, we'll see what happens. All right. What is the story of the pan and the antique lid? I missed that. You'll be seeing the antique lid in just a few minutes. In another 13 minutes, in fact, when it comes out of the oven. But the pan is a modern day Lodge cast iron Dutch oven. In fact, it's a 5-quart Dutch oven. It's the kind that has the handle lids. That was actually part of a large double Dutch oven. You know the one that Lodge sells that has the deep skillet cover. And I actually got that one as a gift from my parents. I don't know, maybe about 10 years or so ago. They used it a few times, really did not use it so much. However, then, well, my parents passed on, which happens to all of us, and I ended up inheriting that pot back. So now, as a result, in addition to all of my others, I have several pieces of cast iron I inherited from my parents, including that large Dutch oven. Um, Meanwhile, earlier this year, I went to the National Cornbread Festival at the end of April. That's the one, that's managed by, that's thrown by Lodge Cast Iron in the city or town of South Pittsburgh. And at that particular festival this year, there was an unofficial meeting or gathering, a meet and greet of various members of the Facebook cast iron collecting community, where a number of us got together to say hi, and quite a few of us went and showed off our pieces. And some of them did some trading and some selling. And it was there that I was lucky enough to score that large rope lid. Yeah, that large rope handle lid, which again, I'll be showing again once this thing comes out of the oven in another 11 minutes. The lid, anyway. So, yeah, gave it a 10 out of 10. Anyway, that's the story of the pan there. Cynthia Wesley getting emergency lighting ready. Better to have it ready and not need it. Yes, exactly. I certainly don't. I do not disagree with you on that, Cynthia. About a month or so ago, we had a sudden thunderstorm here here in central New York. In fact, that lasted only about 15 minutes, but it was like a small hurricane blew through. So that was certainly unexpected. What type of flour used to feed your starter? I am using regular all-purpose flour, but I am using unbleached flour. I do know that much at least, and it does seem to be working. So the starter has not died. It's only been 3 days or so. So I haven't killed my starter yet, and here's hoping it stays that way. Yeah, I do understand that bread flour could be used, but apparently just simple unbleached flour should work just fine. Yeah, Western New York sent that storm to you. Yeah, that's certainly possible. That's for sure. Dana made bison chili in her large Dutch oven, and I made cornbread in my unmarked Wagner square skillet. Well, that sounds good, Radagast, as well. The other thing, though, is that when that starter arrived, I found out later that the instructions that came with it were not very good. It was a simple one-page set of instructions that obviously have been printed off a printer. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but those instructions did omit one crucial fact about feeding your sourdough starter. For the record, the company I bought this starter from is a company called Living Dough. And if you look it up online, is there a fly in here? If you look it up online, livingdough.com, that's all one word, of course. Yeah, it's spelled right, D-O-U-G-H, Living Dough. They sell starters of various kinds, apparently from different parts of the world. I ended up ordering the Italian starter, which is supposed to be the best one to use for making pizza dough and other kinds of Italian dishes. And that's certainly one thing I intend to use it for, but I'm not going to. Anyway, the instructions that came with that starter did not mention the important part of feeding it. It did not mention that you have to discard most of the starter when you feed it. It only says that you have to feed it about every 12 hours or so using roughly 50 grams or a quarter cup of flour and 50 grams or a quarter cup of water. But because I did my research and looked on YouTube at a bunch of different sourdough videos, that's when I learned an essential part of feeding your starter is discarding it when you feed, is discarding most of it, that is, when you feed it. So at least I did not make that mistake. The other thing it said near the very bottom, after all of the rest of the instructions on feeding, it says use only distilled water or purified water. And I did not do that. I have been using tap water for my starter. But again, I haven't killed it. So we can just go from there. Getting folks to part with cast iron is rough, Wyoming Yeti. Boy, that is certainly the truth. That's for sure. I found that out when I went on that highway yard sale about a month or so ago. That's when I found two small pieces of cast iron, both of which were heavily crusted with crud, and both of them turned out to be fire damaged beyond repair, unfortunately. But that's how the hunt goes. What have you been feeding it? 1 to 1 to 1 ratio? Okay, what I've been doing, Louis J, is I have been discarding about half of it. Maybe that might even be too much. Maybe I should discard about 3/4 of it. But I have been just using a simple 1/4 cup measuring cup, and I just add 1/4 cup of unbleached all-purpose flour and a 1/4 cup of lukewarm water. I have been using tap water, but I have been making sure to heat it up so that my tap water has been, depending on how hot I heat it, it's been anywhere from over 90 degrees to maybe just about 100 degrees. So I hope that means I know that much at least. So ain't that a little personal? Okay, what's going on here? Who are those people living at your house? Oh no, no one's been living at my house. Oh wait, you're talking about my friends from earlier this year. And yes, that is true. I did have house guests for a couple of months, but they have moved out. They are indeed close friends. I have mentioned them a couple of times, but no, I do protect people's privacy online. And, I don't like using people's real names. And I'll just say that those are two close and dear friends of mine who did stay here for a couple of months or so after they moved back from Florida, but they have since moved on and they are now on their very own patch of land up in Oneonta. And that was their plan from the beginning. A good 3 or 4 years ago, they actually purchased their own land, and they have been very slowly working to move onto it. And so this was intentionally part of their plan. But now they have successfully moved onto their own land, and they are landowners living on their own land. So that's doing pretty good. They do come back to visit every so often. And in fact, they are the people who came here last night. And their main reason for coming back was they wanted to use my kitchen and my cast iron to make a whole bunch of apple butter. Oh, I posted a short video about that. That's the apple butter that was made in my stove enameled Dutch oven. And yeah, that turned out pretty darn good. That's for sure. They made a huge amount of apple butter. Apparently, apple butter is one of those things. There's no such thing as a small amount when you make it. And their intention is, well, of course, they are going to be giving this stuff away as presents. They left several jars of it in my fridge too. So, yes, I'm quite happy about that. It was fun having your friends on the show. Instant food tasting results. Yes, that's true, Greg Hart. And that's why, as much as I really enjoy living by myself, and I do actually, as I found out, I did enjoy having them there. But yeah, apple butter. Yes. That's yet another thing. I have not made apple butter myself, but especially after yesterday, that's yet another thing I'm going to have to try myself. Hey, Cynthia and Fuzzfork. It is 8:25, by the way. In about another 3 minutes, the lid will come out of the oven, although that lid is going to be blazing hot. However, then from there, we just need to bake the actual sourdough for maybe about another, I think it's like another 20 minutes or so. Apple butter, bread, muffins, fried biscuits, and apple bitter. Yeah, oh yeah, and besides having this starter dough, well, maybe that means I won't need to buy any more yeast. I guess I can find out. Because I mean, granted, I don't make things with yeast every day anyway. So I'm thinking now, whenever I want to, like, say, Well, number one, I'm going to have to be baking bread on a regular basis, but I could use it to make pizza dough. I could use it pretty much for anything that makes yeast, like that uses yeast. Like, say, for instance, oh, I don't know, donuts, for example. Just yeah, exactly. And yeah, we need that bread to go with the apple butter. That all sounds like a good plan, that's for sure. This works well in substitutions of any baked bread or desserts. Yes, I'm definitely looking forward to it. I just need to look up essentially how much starter or leaven you would use in place of a packet of yeast. I'm sure that's very easy to find. Um, Let me see. The recipe that I looked up for the starter dough is once again, teach a man to fish. Can the sourdough go into a long storage? From what I read, it does take maybe about a couple of weeks or more to actually kill a starter. So it is very durable. I would have to say it is almost certainly not as durable as store-bought yeast, which you can keep in your refrigerator for months. But this is why I have it in the refrigerator right now, and I intend to feed it once per week. Also, as I found out, I'm going to have to pop that cover and release the gas every few days or so. Roughly about 60 grams in most recipes. Well, that's easy enough. As I mentioned, right now I've got maybe about 100 grams of starter anyway. So there we go. That means essentially whenever I want to do some baking, well, the day before, of course, I will have to feed my starter, take the discard, and I could either just, that's about 50 grams right there. So that's probably all I will need. But I will certainly need to let it, come back to room temperature. So I'm thinking maybe the day before or the night before I bake, that's when I will feed my starter and do the, and keep the other side, let the other side come to room temperature. You can freeze it in some parchment paper and place in plastic bag, and it can store up to 3 to 4 months. Well, that tells us something. Thank you very much, Louis J. Thank you for your advice. I did notice that you made more bread last week too. Well, if I inspired you for that, well, good. If you keep feeding it and using it, it will last forever. Yes, there are some companies that brag about having their starter that has lasted for decades, and I believe there's even a couple that have like 100 or 200 or 500-year-old starter. Boy, that takes some dedication. I would have to think you would need to be a, professional bakery that has lasted centuries, and I'm sure there are some of them in Europe, to have a starter that lasts that long. Maybe that's part of their daily chores. It's like feed the starter. You missed it and good. Okay, use a coffee filter instead of canning lid to burp starter. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Somebody else had mentioned that maybe I should actually use a just that, like say a coffee filter and a rubber band instead of that lid. Can you use the discard in a different cook? Yes, this is what I understand. That yes, That's part of the whole point. I have with this starter, I have essentially an unlimited amount of it. Because I'm going to keep feeding it and growing it again. So at least once per week, I can take some of that starter and cook with it or bake with it, and that is really my intention here. I had one for a year and a half before I got sloppy and killed it. Well, it happens. I've no doubt. I can only hope that doesn't happen here, but or cheesecloth. You can use the discard for pancakes, English muffins, and many more recipes. And pizza dough, like I mentioned. I've said enough times that I have made decent pizza dough. Only on a couple of occasions have I been able to make really great pizza dough. But it is, who knows, maybe using this sourdough starter that might help me get some really, really good pizza dough. So yeah, all of this is something I'm really looking forward to. And you can share it with the recipe. Yes. All right. Yeah, exactly. Discard can be used for pizza too. Yeah, exactly. All of this. As I said, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, because I don't know yet if I've been bitten by the bread bug or whatever you call it. Just like we have cast ironitis, I'm sure there's a name for bread baking addiction. But cakes, all of this sounds really good, especially since, well, the holidays are coming. And, once or twice over the past few years, I have attempted to make panettone at Christmas time. And both of my attempts were terrible. That's why I didn't post any videos of them. I ended up with a big sticky brick of panettone that it had the smell of it and sort of the taste of it. But yeah, this thing was like a football. So, but hey, there's always this year. Maybe I'll use my starter and see if that helps to get me a semi decent panettone. You can share it with a recipe. All right. Oh, I'm late. Okay, I talked too much. Let's get that lid out of the oven. You know what? I think it's working. I took the lid out of the oven and it looks like the top is cracking. It is actually parting. So this thing might actually work. Yeah. Yeah. So in maybe like another 15 to 20 minutes, I will test it or I will check it and see what we have. All right. What do we got here? Yeah, creating all these wonderful carbs. Yeah, tell me about it. Well, I do have a family that I've been getting close to lately. And so I can always make stuff and then give it to them. In fact, that's probably what I'm going to be loading my apple butter on. In fact, all of that apple butter, I'll probably give it to them because they will certainly gobble it all down. Especially if I make a loaf of cinnamon bread or cinnamon raisin bread to go with it. That sounds like a plan. Yeah. All right. Feel your pain, been there. Okay. This lid, of course, is hot, hot, hot. Hope I can lift this. Well, I will hold it up. Oh, let me get the other glove. I will hold it up as long as I can before I burn myself. I am feeling a nice fruit cake. Oh, that sounds good. I make fruit cake every year too, but yeah, we'll see what we can do with yeast. Okay. However, you asked, and here it is. This thing is still blazing hot from the oven, but here is the large rope handle lid. And yeah, you can see why it's called a rope handle lid. And what's more, this thing even has the ARC logo on it. This is my first and so far only large ARC logo piece. Yeah, it would be nice for me to find another, and maybe one of these days I will do it. But yeah, as I said, I scored this at the National Cornbread Festivals, and I was psyched. As you can see from the inside, it has the usual basting spikes of a lodge. I was told when I got it that there's a lot of pitting on the inside, and yes, there is some, but so what? I'm just stoked to have this because obviously I'm not going to be reselling it. I'm using it, and I'm more than happy to do so. So yeah, I'm quite happy with this. Hmm. I told Billy Lee last night I lost 4 pounds and thought about it's holiday season and said forget it. I've been chewing ever since. Yeah, I know that feeling all too well, Cynthia Wesley. I've got to really stop with the binging myself, but nonetheless. Oh yeah, exactly. I am very happy with this lid. I mean, especially since it goes with my large Dutch oven. I have a couple of standard lodge lids including this unmarked lodge lid. It does not have the lodge logo on it, but it does, of course, have the usual size number 8 and the 10 1/4 inches on the inside, and I've been happy with that. Um, I even splurged some months ago and got a large camp oven lid, especially to fit on that Dutch oven. But then this lid came in, and so now I'm certainly using this lid more than the other camp oven lid. But we'll work it out. Okay, sorry for being late. Hello, Larry Perkins. No need, nothing to be sorry about. I mean, after all, this is a YouTube live discussion, and We have been at it now for about 35 minutes. You know you lost some weight if you have to stick your belly out to hold your pants up. Well, that's my problem. So, but still working on it. What can I say? And I think we all are. Yeah, Larry, you're right in time. Yes, exactly. So, all right. It is now 8:36. I better not forget again. I was a couple of minutes late, although as I said, it does look like that loaf may very well work. In my experience, the vintage lids are so much lighter than the modern ones. Let me lift this lid again now that you say that. Lodge pans have always been thick and heavy, though. And I would say that this probably has the weight of a typical lodge lid, although it is a high dome lid. You know, it has more space underneath, which also means a little bit more iron was needed to actually make it. So I don't know. If this thing wasn't so hot, I might get out my scale and see if we can compare this to a modern day lodge lid. Um, then here's a question. Lodge has always been thick and heavy. They make their, they've made their pans the same size pretty much from the very beginning. Would you say that modern day lodge is thicker and heavier than older lodge? I mean, the dimensions are the same. This old lodge lid fits the modern day lodge Dutch oven with no difficulty at all. But I'm just curious as to whether we would say that modern day lodge is heavier than older lodge. To avoid a scorched bottom, I use an aluminum sheet tray. Well, there's an idea too, that's for sure. I made salted rye bread tonight, Honey Badger. My neighbors came over with wine, and the bread are gone. Both were great, the wine and the bread. Well, yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess that what that means is that baking bread, you tend to attract visitors. That's not a bad thing either, that's for sure. Honey, what? No cheese? Howdy after being away a bit. Hello, Anthony, and welcome again to this channel tonight. Don't worry, don't forget that the lid will be hot for a long time. Yes, exactly. That's why I've got the glove. I certainly have not forgotten it. This glove, as you can see, has gotten pretty scorched. I think this glove is like maybe about a year and a half old, and it's probably already getting worn out. And what's more, this is not a dollar store glove either. So, but well, these things do wear out, as you can see. Only have new lodge lids, but they fit all my lodge pans. Yeah, that's the nice thing about lodge. Lodge, of course, is pretty generic in that just about any lid except BS&R will fit a lodge, just like they will fit a Wagner. And again, lodge has had its sizes unchanged for pretty much its entire existence, all the way back from the early the ARC logo and even the unmarked lodge, all the way up to the modern day lodge ones that they are producing now in their new factories. So that I really one of the nice things about lodge is just that their pans are so interchangeable. I like broke in. I've seen some differences with the diameters of the three-notch lodge number 8 skillets versus a modern lodge. Hard to say. I don't have a number 8 three-notch on me at the moment. In my collection, I do have a three-notch number 6, which is an unusual size for lodge. So that really wouldn't compare very much. Oh yeah, and that's right. And one of the things I managed to score at Brimfield was a BS&R Century Series number 6. It's now in the lye tank right now, cleaning up. So this means I've got 3 number 6 skillets. And I'm not sure what I can use 3 number 6 size skillets for. Actually, 4 number 6 size skillets. Because this unique skillet that Lodge made, especially for the Museum of Cast Iron, is in fact the exact size and shape of that vintage Lodge number 6 skillet, although this one is handled. This one is hammered as well. And yeah, they even put 3 notches on this one too. So this is a nice piece of, yeah, it kind of celebrates Lodge's history, and I like that. I like that a lot. This thing might even be a collector's item. I've heard rumors that Lodge, when this is sold out. Lodge will discontinue it. I suspect they'll probably do a new design after that. But yeah, this one that I am glad to have. Okay. I only have one lid. It's a raised 12 and it fits my number 12 Lodge skillet. Oh, congratulations. Yeah, number 12 is lid especially is definitely hard to find. So Hog Wild, I have an old Lodge Showman 8 Dutch oven in lye. It has the dome raised 8 lid. Nice. Or is that Snowman 8? Don't recognize the name, to be honest. I'm not a Lodge expert, I'm sorry to say. Um, okay, and Louis J. I use my number 6s to make individual sized banana bread or skillet cookies. Nice. All of these sound like great things to try. It's been years since I've made banana bread. I have made banana bread, but it's been too long. All of these just keep saying I've got to do this. And this is one reason why I don't see this channel ending at any time soon. There are so many things I want to make. 1930s, the 8 looks like a snowman. Oh, I think I've seen a couple of photos of those. Yes. It was kind of like a casting flaw or something where the number 8, like you said, looks like a snowman. That's interesting. I'll have to look up some photos unless you want to provide photos. So that, yeah, that all sounds good. Hog Wild, I have one as well, but I've yet to season the lid, although mine is not a dome raised. Yeah, this lid is still hot, and I probably won't be able to hold it without the lid, without the gloves at any time tonight. I must have lids with everything, cosmetic purposes. Hell yeah! Oh yeah, talk about OCD. I am kind of regretting that I managed to get from eBay. You remember I got a BSNR 12-inch camp oven from eBay. And that was the one where the legs had actually poked through the box. And I got that even though it did not have a lid because I already have a BSNR 12-inch lid. It came with my BSNR 12-inch spider. And now that I have it, I find myself saying to myself, I need to get another 12-inch lid, one for the spider and one for the camp oven. Do you own any BSNR number 6 skillets? I do now. I managed to find one just last week at Brimfield. It's a Century Series number 6, and it's in the lye tank right now, cleaning up. I know that the number 6 Red Mountain is as rare as hen's teeth. I believe it's the 6 and the 9. Those are two ones that that BSNR collectors really crow about when they find one of them. But mine is a Century, I'm afraid. So who knows? Maybe one of these days. Turtleback lids is what people call them. Heard you mention that Lodge number 6 is an unusual number. Well, as far as I can tell, yes, it is. I'm not saying it's rare. You know, it's not the type of thing that you would pay through the nose for, like a Griswold small logo number, no, large logo number 4, for instance. But when you look around, think about it, the number 6 Lodge is unusual. It is the same size as I found as the Lodge pie plate that they just produced. However, its dimensions are very, very slightly different. But I mean, we don't see many of those. That is an unusual size for Lodge. More likely with Lodge, we would see a number 5, a number 8, a number 3, and the number 10. Even with Lodge, the number 9 is unusual. But I mean, for instance, with Wagner and Griswold, number 9 was more common, and we do find them every so often in our, in the treasure hunt. But it's less likely to find. We're less likely to find a number 9 size Lodge. And if somebody here wants to show off their number 9 Lodge, congratulations. And I'm calling, yeah, good question. I've asked everybody about the Red Mountain. I heard you mention that number 6. Oh, yeah, that's what you just said. I have a few Century 6s, but man, oh man, I want a Red Mountain. Yes, exactly. That's what I mean, Hogwild. With the different manufacturers, some sizes were more rare than others. I call the number 6 an unusual size for Lodge and not rare because, well, I don't know how many they produced. But I have not seen in the collectors forums, on Facebook and other places, people calling the Lodge number 6 a rare item. So I will play it safe and just call it unusual. By the way, it is now 8:46. I'm gonna give. Let me check that. In fact, let me be right back. I'm betting maybe another 5 minutes or so, but I'm gonna check that loaf. So I will be right back. Holy cow. All right. I think it might be done. Maybe. Let me get those gloves. And let's see what it looks like. Where did I put the other glove? Here's the other glove. All right. Let's see what we got. And here's why it looks like it might be done. Maybe not. Actually, looking it over, I might be able to put this back in the oven for maybe another few minutes or so. Ow, 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 ow. Damn it, damn it, damn it. All right, I'm going to stick this in the oven. Oh, holy cow, this is hot. Ow. Ugh. Let's try changing these gloves around. Let's do the other side. Maybe that'll help. But I'm thinking I'm going to put this back in the oven for just a couple minutes or so, because this thing has some darkness, yes, but there are still some light parts to it. Ow, ow, ow. Also, I could see it's not going to be a round loaf. It is actually going to be shaped by the creases of the parchment paper. Yeah, that's what I probably should do. I should get a not just this trivet. I should get like my cutting board and put it right here so that I can take it out and show it off. Be right back again. Here's the cutting board. All right, let's put this over here for now. Okay. All right. I have 3 of the series in Lodge, Wagner and Art Unmarked Wagner. 3 and Q Notch. William found all this stuff in the beginning of my COVID journey. I'm guessing that's when you must have caught cast ironitis. Whamming Yeti gave my hub an antique spider skillet. He's back and forth about using it. Late 18th, early 19th century. Suggestions? Just hang it up. How thick is it? I have seen some spider skillets that are very, very thick. And if it is very, very thick, I would think you should be able to use it with no difficulty at all. I've seen some 19th century pans that are extremely thin, and I'm not sure. Oh, if it's thick, then yeah, I would say go ahead and use it. Give it a try because it's cast iron. I mean, yes, I know cast iron is brittle and everything like that. And the very thin skillets, it's hard to say. And yet I have 2 gate marked skillets that are very thin also, and I use them on a regular basis. Oh yeah, there's another one of my named pans, Lucky number 7, my gate marked number 7, for instance, as well as my number 9 sized fancy handled skillet, which is very, very thin, and I still use that on a regular basis. My number 8 single notch skillet measures 10 inches. My 3 notch measures 10 and 9/16 inches, and my new one measures 10 and 5/8 inches. I have a glass lid that fits them all close enough. maybe the difference might be the thickness of the skillet, perhaps. I'm just, well, just pondering more than anything else. You have Wyoming Yeti, yes. I would say yes, give it a try. It's cast iron. I really don't think you, especially if it's thick, I don't think you will ruin it. I mean, look at my big 200-year-old cauldron, for instance. I made jambalaya in it this summer. If you score the top next time, you should get a little better oven spring. Yes, I had heard that. All right. Okay, I don't want to burn it. I think it's time to get it out of the oven now. So here we go one more time. Oh yeah. Here we go. For better or for worse, here it is. Let me move this over a little bit. And of course, I should take a photo or two. What is that? Because one way or another, this is my first sourdough loaf. Besides, it might look better than the thumbnail I have on this right now. All right. And then I'll try to get a close-up for you folks. Gotta plug my phone back in, though. Get those gloves back on one more time. And let's do this again. So anyway, here it is in the pot. Then I will take it out of the pot and I'll be able to give you guys a better look. Excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. Sorry about that. Okay, how to do this. Let's put this large lid over here. I know I've got a spare pan or two somewhere. Put it in here. Put the large Dutch oven here. Don't want to drop that. Lay out the cutting board. And fortunately, this is paper. Oops. Yeah, this paper rips easily. How about that? Very easily. All right, there we are. Well, like I said, for better or for worse, I present to you my first sourdough. This thing rose maybe this much. As you can see, it did actually, the top part did part. Like you said, I probably should have scored it. All of this, I think I will try to do with my next loaf. Oh yeah. I think I burned the bottom a little bit, or charred it if you prefer. But at this point, I guess all I can do is let this thing cool off and try cutting it open and see how it turns out. Basically, what kind of crumb and how good how good the bubbles are on the inside. I hope I don't have a brick, although it does have a nice solid feel to it. I will say that. All right. Not charred. Well done. Yeah, that's the best part. When they get used to the time. William, they get used all the time. Yes, exactly. After you make a few of those, you will learn to do without the parchment paper. Yeah, actually, that's true. It's been a few years since I made no-knead bread, and I did learn that, yes, especially with a cast iron Dutch oven, you could just plop the loaf in and it won't stick. I have never had a loaf stick in my cast iron. For that matter, I've also never had pizza stick in my cast iron. So yes, considering that, does it sound hollow when you thump it? Um, hot, hot, hot. Sort of. I think so. As I said, I'll find out when I cut it. All right, gas bubbles. Yeah, that's the bubbles I talk about on the inside. As I said, we'll wait. And I'll ask a question. How long should I wait before I cut this thing? Other than that, yeah, it's being cuit, not burned. Okay. So I just have to wait for this to cool off in the meantime. 30 minutes. Okay, well, that sounds good because, we are just about running about 9 o'clock right now. So that sounds like a good way to end this. But that means, well, we've got another 30 minutes. And so there we go. Ideally, wait about 30 minutes or so. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Louis says 35 minutes. All right. I will take all of this in mind, which means, I guess, unless anybody objects, now I think would be as good a time as any. Crumb structure is hard to get right at first, but I'm sure the taste will be spot on. Yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. As I said, I am not expecting this to be a world class loaf. It's my first sourdough, and it'll be a learning experience like many other things. Oh, I better turn off the oven. The oven is still on. There we go. That should be my last break. All right. I would have added jalapenos to it. Crumb structure. Okay, I'm really happy to see you baking. Well, I will do my best. As I said, that was my first sourdough. I've made quite a few pizzas, most of which turned out to be mediocre to good, not great. Um, Several years ago, a few times I did make no knead bread, which turned out mediocre, not great. If you see there's a pattern coming on, well, yeah, it just means I need to practice. But hey, I have my sourdough starter. I need to practice so that I can use the starter. All right, nothing like a fresh baked bread with some butter. Are you searching for new ideas? There are always new things that I want to make. I mean, like the apple butter last night. I want to make some apple butter now. So I'm always doing good to wait about 30 seconds sometime. 30 seconds. Yeah, sounds about right. Swiss cheese and pastrami. All right. Having said that, I figure now, especially since we have about 30 minutes or so, unless anybody objects, if you don't mind, let's mention the other topic that I mentioned that we would be talking about tonight. Because, well, what can we say? Today is September 11th, and I am not going to get into one of those depressing pity parties that this could very well end up becoming, but because rather, I do feel that the subject is important enough and close enough to us that I do like to remember the tragedy that happened each on September 11th of 2001. So yeah, we have a book. The title. Oh, okay. Longest half hour of your life. Well, that's one reason why, as I said, yeah, I know. 23 years ago, who would have thunk it? There are people now who were born after September 11th, 2001. I calling it 9/11 kind of cheapens it, I think. I don't know. But yeah, there are people who have never again, all their lives, all they've known is the so-called war on terror that was started because of yeah, the tragedy then. That, of course, gets into a political subject that we will talk about another time, but definitely not tonight. However, right now, of course, yeah, there's that 23. Yes, 23 is the number of Eris in Discord. But I have been doing this each year for the past several years, as you know, and I also take pride in the fact that I do this not just on so-called special years, the ones that ending with five, which we're going to have again in another 2 years. because there's really nothing special about that where this is concerned, other than the fact that it'll be a year with a five in it. But nonetheless, I mean, what can I say? And besides, I've told my story already, the last several years. The fact that I was at work, and I work at a cubicle job, and we were at work the morning that that it happened. That I was in my at my cubicle taking calls from customers when somebody came into our department announcing loudly a plane hit the World Trade Center, and folks gasped, and then we kept on doing what we were doing because that was a tragedy, but we thought it was probably just a terrible accident until the second plane hit half an hour later. And that's when everything came to a standstill, when pretty much calls stopped coming in at work, and everybody was just hanging around the TV watching as it happened. So yeah, I had a friend who refused to call it 9/11. Yes, I know the feeling there, Radagast. I agree. I was up and watching when the second plane hit. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like the first one was completely unexpected, and while there is some footage of the first plane hitting, I mean, of course, everybody was then actually paying attention, and so there are many scenes and many filmed instances of the second plane. The CEO of the company that I worked for had a close friend of his on one of those planes, and so yes, he lost one of his friends in there on the planes. So that it really, because that affected everybody at our company, it certainly did affect us. I have two friends who were there in Manhattan when it happened. They weren't hurt or anything, but they watched it happen. One of those two friends had nightmares for weeks or months after that, and he ended up moving out of New York City, really, especially because of that. Having seen the immensity of those buildings, it is beyond shocking they are gone, isn't it, though? So, yeah. We're going to post a recipe for cast iron double chocolate marble pound cake. Oh, that sounds terrific, Nine Honeypot. I'm looking forward to it. My first attempt at making a marble cake about a month or so ago was not that successful. And yes, it was a sad day. I was driving around and heard it on the radio. Pat Z was going to a retirement seminar for my company at a hotel, and we watched it on the bar TVs. Ouch! My ex had two business partners die on one of the planes. Yeah, yeah. It- I guess the best I could say is that even if we did not lose family members on that day, I mean, it was definitely close and personal for all of us, either because we had friends or family who were, in fact, eyewitnesses to what happened. Really, you could say pretty much that everybody in the country was part of our family that day. So yes, we did indeed lose family members. The ones who perished when the towers fell, including those 400 firefighters, or even the ones at the Pentagon, or of course, the Flight 93, the one that crashed because the passengers revolted, and they managed to, well, just that, get the plane to crash before it hit its destination, which allegedly was the White House. I threw a tape in the VCR and recorded the whole day. I have never watched it. Wow. That's something that, well, even if you have never watched it, I might suggest have that tape transferred onto DVD or something. Bakes beautifully in a round 2 and 3/4 quart, 20 centimeter French oven. Oh, that sounds good. Oh, you're talking about that cake. Yes. I have a 2-quart enameled cast iron pot as well. It's a heart shaped pot that I got for Valentine's Day, and that does make a perfect cake mold too. So yeah, I'm happy about that. My cousin was working at Goldman Sachs right there. Well, obviously, I hope he was okay. I mean, I know the towers fell and a couple of other buildings fell, including the famous, what was it, Tower 7, I think, or Building 7. And of course, a lot of people were caught in the debris between the dust and the debris that fell that day. And some people developed breathing problems because of that. Radagast. I was home doing paperwork when my daughter called me. I turned on the TV to see the second one hit. It made me sick. Yes, I mean, that was one of those the jumpers. Yeah, can't forget the jumpers. I will mention the jumpers. Can't forget. This is one. Yeah, I had a classroom of ninth graders during 9/11. Ouch. Yeah, that was certainly an experience. This is definitely was one of those days that none of us will ever forget. We'll all remember what we were doing and where we were when that happened. Which I guess is a good way to commemorate it, just because, we will never forget. And I mean, that's one of the slogans we say, never forget 9/11. Along with the other one, let me move this hot Dutch oven out of the way right now because I just happen to have one of those patriotic cast iron pans, although not the one that Lodge made for, as a commemoration of that day. But this was the Cracker Barrel skillet that they released a few years ago. Oh yeah, that's right. This absorbed heat from that hot cast iron pan. Guess what? This thing is hot too. Gotta put my gloves on for it. I didn't burn myself, but I almost burned myself. Anyway, this we've seen before. This is the Cracker Barrel United We Stand skillet that they released in, I think it was 2021, in fact. Yes, that's right. The year after the pandemic hit. But yes, it's a patriotic skillet that, yeah, it certainly comes to mind when I think of September 11th. That's for sure. So this has actually been in my give it away pile, and I've been trying to sell it. Haven't had much luck yet. There is always be another time. Days like today, I wonder if I shouldn't just keep it. On the other hand, I do have plenty of patriotic cast iron skillets already, including my Made in America skillets. So I might still end up giving it away nonetheless. Wyoming Yeti. Husband was military at the time, all high alert and lockdown. Yes, that sounds stressful. Oh, I don't doubt it. My brother, in fact, is a veteran of both Gulf Wars. He went into Iraq, Kuwait during the first Gulf War, and he went into Iraq in the second Gulf War, the one after September 11th. So yes, we were very concerned, but he came back and he was unharmed, at least physically. The end of the age of innocence. Yes, so many things changed on that day, most of which were not for the better either. I mean, besides the fact that it has since been nearly impossible to travel by air since that day, as you know, because of all the security procedures that are still in place. But yeah, so many things now. It's like the United States. We really thought that we were invincible up until that day. Terrorism, or at least foreign terrorism. I mean, there are domestic terrorists. Foreign terrorism was considered to be something else, something that took place elsewhere in the world until it hit us. So, and it is definitely not. It's definitely felt like that ever since. And so, even though what I'm about to say does upset people, in some ways, we have to say the terrorists won because they accomplished what they set out to do. I mean, they were definitely cowards. I will say that for what they did when they took all of those innocent people with them, all just to make a stupid political statement. However, they accomplished their goal. They struck terror into the United States. They changed our way of life. Between everything that happened, all of the mobilization we made into the so-called war on terror, not to mention the fact that, yes, we are now more scared than we used to be. So in that respect, I'm afraid we do have to say they accomplished what they set out to do. But that's all I'm going to say there. Because no, I do not want to sound like some one of those people who is anti-American or anything like that. I love my country, I dearly, and I would do what I can to defend it, but have to acknowledge just that they accomplished their goals. You can give away some sourdough starter with the pan to bake it in. Yeah, there's a plan. All right. Thank you for his service. Yes, we treated the prison dwellers the way we get treated. We are treated like prison dwellers the way we get treated for air travel. Yeah, that is definitely a subject of controversy. No question about that. I have been given special treatment myself during some flights. For several years, although that's lessened up in the last few years. For several years, I regularly went on business trips for my job, where I had to go and do work in other parts of the country. And I won't forget when, as a joke, one of my coworkers who I was traveling with, yes, he actually said, he was in front of me at the security desk, and he said, you should probably check out the guy behind me. He's looking kind of suspicious. Yes, he did that to me, and he did it as a joke. And so what they did was they actually pulled me out, took me into another room, and gave me a thorough frisking and asked me several questions and so on. But I mean, I did my best to cooperate because I had nothing to hide. And yeah, as I said, that was one of my coworkers who is no longer working. Not because of anything I did. He just ended up leaving on his own. Anyway, Cynthia Wesley, it was a quiet, quiet day. Everything was grounded. Buses, planes, trains, everything. And they brought President real close to me in Shreveport, Louisiana, closer to Papa Den. Wow. Yes, I know what they did with President George W. Bush on that day, and I won't repeat it because I have my opinions about that. Nonetheless, yeah, but yes, that was when after the second plane hit, they grounded every flight in the country, and it remained that way for several days. The skies were eerily empty. It actually, I mean, you could feel it. Really, for about 3 or 4 days after that. In fact, it was just so much on everybody's mind. That was all we could talk about from the moment we got up to the moment we went to bed for a few days. It's like that was the only subject we could talk about. Or we had the TV on 24/7. And after about 2 to 3 days of it, I got sick of it. Finally turned off the TV. And I went for a ride into. I was living in Boston, or the Boston area at that time, and I took a train ride into Boston just to clear my head. And it's not that the city was deserted; it was everything was still going. But yes, especially with no planes overhead, you could still feel it, and it took a while to get over that feeling too. Hartsfield and all was a friendly place before 9/11. No wreckage in Pennsylvania. What? Okay, titanium engines. Okay, Anthony, please tell me you were joking, because I am not going to get into any stupid goddamn fucking arguments over the 9/11 Truth Series. Those people are idiots. They are conspiracy theorists, and I'm not even going to get started with that. So kindly, if there was no wreckage, well, okay, Anthony, I am honestly saying I am asking you, quite frankly, to leave this channel. I am, or at least tonight, I am not going to get into some kind of a stupid argument with a conspiracy theorist. Got it? All right, let's do this. Put user in timeout for 24 hours. Goodbye. Yeah, if I get emotional, that's for one reason, is that I hate conspiracy theorists. Because these people would rather put their stupid, idiotic conspiracies over real lives. I mean, just the idea of saying that it was a false flag, that people did not die on that day. That's something that really I am not going to. I really can't stand for it. And whether that's 9/11 conspiracy theories, or the JFK conspiracy theory, or COVID-19 conspiracy theories, I am not going to settle for that. For the idea that there is some kind of a massive cover up where people supposedly did not die. And no, I am not going to go into that. Okay. Think positive sourdough. Yes, exactly. Okay. Think positive sourdough. I apologize, everybody. I sincerely apologize for that little emotional outburst. It's just that there are some things I am not going to tolerate on my channel. Okay. Anyway, despite all that, of course, after several days, that's when the emotional outpouring began. Because the numbness finally started to wear off, and that's when the emotional shock set in, and that's when we got things like all of the tributes, all of the people putting up all of their banners and all of those flowers and everything there in New York City. I never did visit that in person, I'm afraid. I only saw pictures or videos of that. I never had the chance to do that until the time when they actually built the Freedom Tower. I have not yet been to the Freedom Tower for that matter. I do say though that as when I was a resident of Boston, that was when the Boston Marathon bombing took place. And a few days after that, I went into the city of Boston and I saw all of the memorials that they had put up in the place where the bombing happened. So I certainly did get a feel for that. Okay. Bread is cool enough now. Oh, that sounds like a plan. Definitely. Something on too many channels and trolls. Yeah, there are a lot of trolls out, aren't there? And that may very well have to do with the fact that we're in an election season. Well, okay, yeah. Well, thank you very much, Ronald. I don't think we even need to say any more about that. I'm not going to try to get attention over that, but we'll just change the subject. And before I cut the bread, if nothing else, as I said, I do want to do this each year. I do because obviously, it was something that affected all of us, and I don't want to forget it. And I would very much like to honor and respect everyone who experienced that day, whether it was you folks watching it on TV halfway across the country or halfway around the world, or folks who were there and saw it in person, or folks who were in the service, whether it was the police or the fire department or the military, all of which we were all affected on that day. So just just have a few moments, I guess, to remember it and commemorate it. I like that large pot behind you, like a Dutch oven. Oh, you're talking about this one. Yes, this is my South African potjie. I have had this since 2012. I have done several videos with this, and yet this thing is very, very heavy. It is much heavier than a large Dutch oven. This thing is very, very thick and heavy. And yeah, doesn't it look cool? These things are quite popular for that reason, because they look like medieval style cauldrons. Hi, Jailhouse Rock. Corey was playing cards with Jimmy Hoffa. Shit. Okay, I like that. Anyway, yeah, cut the cake. Okay, yeah, I think maybe we'll do that. How about that? I went after it happened, and people were allowed around the area in New York. In New York, yeah. Oh, I don't doubt it was overwhelming. That's for sure. Okay. However, I'd say it's probably time. Sorry, been listening from afar tonight. Been busy around the house. Oh yeah, well that's what we're about to find out, because it's, as you say, it's time to cut the bread or cut the loaf or open it up. Let me dig out my bread knife. I have stories about just about everything in my kitchen, and one of them is this fancy global bread knife that I bought as a birthday present back in 2011. And in some ways, I regret it, because I bought this at Sur La Table. You remember Sur La Table, the mall store that sold all of those wonderful kitchen gadgets? They convinced me to buy this, and I paid over $100 for it. And as you can see, it still looks great, and it still cuts bread, but it's a bread knife. I didn't have to spend over $100 on this thing. But I did. I was naive, and I like to think I've obtained some more experience since then. Okay. Yeah, I see Elvis every time. Municipal auditorium. All right. Let's try. Okay, maybe I'll just move the camera closer because I know that's really what you folks want to see. So let's bring this down. Loosen this. Shaky cam. And here's the bread. In fact, I wonder if I can get this any closer. Anyway, here's the bread. All right. Well, I guess now or never, I suppose. Put this knife down. Move this parchment paper from what you and from what you say, you're right. My next loaf, I will not use the parchment paper. And we will go from there. All right. Now comes the moment that we've all been waiting for. Maybe I should even move this microphone closer so that you can hear cutting the bread. And, well, there's definitely some crumb. Okay. Come on. Oh, yeah, it definitely has a tough bottom, that's for sure. And here we are. Ooh, haha. Just so, what do you think? There are some bubbles, so that's good. In that respect, then, I guess I could at least call this a success. Like all of my other things, like my pizza dough, for instance, I will not kid myself and call this a world-class sourdough bread. However, we have sourdough. There we go. So finally, I think I'd better do one last thing and try a piece. Tear a little piece off and Oh, I love sourdough. I'm not sure if the inside is as done as I would like. Still feels a little moist on the inside. So yeah, I do have to practice, that's for sure. Gotta eat another piece. Mm. 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 Just in time. Yeah, that's one way to put it. Squeeze it. All right, I'll squeeze it like you say. Let me do this here by the so that you can hear some of the sound. So I don't know. I think it's no. I mean, it tastes good, but as far as sourdough, I'm certain I could have done better. But this was my first sourdough, and all I can do is practice. That's for sure. All right. Toast the bread if it seems too moist. Well, we could certainly do that. I'll have to get out the toaster. But there we go. Here is our sourdough bread. As I said, it's not a round loaf. You know, it has these little. It was shaped by the creases of the parchment paper. But I will take your advice, and my next loaf will not be in parchment paper. I will just put it into a bare Dutch oven, and we'll see how the next one turns out. Which may be, well, probably by this weekend, because yeah, I have to feed my my starter at least once a week. So either I could discard I could discard half of it or use it, and I think I'd rather use it. So we'll see what happens this weekend. However, you'll get it next time. Yes, exactly. I mean, I have said this enough times about cooking, and I suppose I might as well just say it one more time. Let's bring this up here. There we go. And let me get my mic as well. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I can say this. I've said this many times about cooking, namely that in cooking, there are many learning experiences and a few disasters. Fortunately, we can eat the learning experiences. And so, yes, this was definitely a learning experience, although a successful one in that I got some sourdough bread. How about that? But there we go. That means I'd say we probably accomplished what we set out to do tonight. Yeah, Dan. Well, thank you very much, Wyoming Yeti. You don't have to just praise just to be nice. I appreciate honest criticism, which is why, as I said, again, it's okay. I know it's not great. I'll just keep on practicing. And yeah, very slick, Larry. I want to borrow it too. And good night as well. Thank you, Cast Iron Fanatic, sharing my first sourdough baking experience. Well, yeah, I would say give it a try. Why not? Because if nothing else, I now have, as long as I keep feeding that sourdough starter, I've got myself an unlimited supply of it. So I may never have to buy yeast again. So that's another thing I'm looking forward to. And thank you as well to thank you for coming into my kitchen, Val's Black Cat's Rules. I'm certainly more than happy to have you folks here because, as always, it's you folks here who, as I said, make these live videos so much fun. Having this two-way interaction really is fun. I have been doing videos on TikTok Live, and those are really more just like a one-way interaction because people just come and go there on TikTok Live. It doesn't get as personal as this. So I certainly like that. Need some soup to dip the bread in. Well, again, I'd say my second loaf will probably come this weekend, and we'll see what happens. So thank you very much, Clico as well, and Radagast, and Greg Hart, and Val's Black Cat's Rules. Yes, thank you very much to everybody for your kind words. Like I said, no need to go overboard. I'm just a guy trying his first time baking, and there's always next time. And we will just go on from there. Will you be doing panettone this year? I will make my third attempt at panettone this year. As I said, I made 2 previous attempts, and they were so terrible, I didn't even post the video. I ended up with thick lumps of panettone. So hopefully, yeah, the flavor will improve as the starter matures. There is that too. And thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kimberly Miller, and thank you, William Hurt. And we will continue on next week. So now it's time to get on to head to bed because it's a Wednesday night. Most of us have work tomorrow. I know I certainly do, and we will just continue from there. So as always, well, I think I might as well get this out and close it as well with a shot of this because again, thank you as well for putting up with my little discussion of September 11th. Because next year, well, we will commemorate it again. At least I hope so. But for now, I suppose, am I holding this right? Yes, I am. Let's end it this way. As I say, like I always say, see you next Wednesday.